Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Julie. In today's video, we're going to do a double page layout using the change of scenery papers. Now this was originally a collection and I didn't get it back in the day, but I did pick up the papers because they were so pretty. Of course, the paper that really drew me into this collection was this one right here. But do you know what? It is also a very intimidating paper to work with because it's so pretty. And how do you add photos to such a beautiful scene? I am going to use this one here for my base page, and I'm going to do that with the help of a really good sketch. This week, I am joining the creative design team and we are sharing double page layouts starting with a sketch. And this sketch right here has been used already this week. If you've missed it, I will link the full playlist down below and at the end of this video. It's kind of neat to see all of our takes on this one great sketch right here. I was able to stay true to the sketch and not rotate it because my photos just worked. So I've got this really great photo here, and then I've got a 4x4, a 3x4. And you can see that it is complementing the back and not fighting with it. You will notice in these sketches that they are all done using a grayscale. But if you look closely, the grayscale will give you a hint as to what to do with your cardstock and your pattern paper. Right here at the bottom, there is a piece, but I'm not going to use it because I'm going to let the paper speak for itself. And this bottom half of this great page right here is going to replace this piece of either pattern paper or cardstock. Now I did matte all of my photos using pine because it's the darkest color in this collection and I tend to do that. When it came to adding these big mattes and these two other pieces right here, if you look closely, this matte is the same color of gray as this matte, which would indicate that that could be the same pattern paper. And then there's a mix right here. This gray is the same color as this gray. Now that's the only thing I changed, and I'll show you why. I've been cleaning up my scrapbooking room in the basement, and I'm migrating up to the third floor or to the second floor of my house. And I came across this paper. What I like about the Close to My Heart papers is that even if it's not the same collections, often the colors are the same. Now, I didn't have enough to do what is suggested right here on the sketch, the same pattern on this mat here and this piece right here. But I did have enough to do two of the same cuts. So I'm going to add this right here underneath. And you can tell that even if I have a busy background, this one here is nice and light. And so far, it's not fighting with the background. Now, that is very important when you are trying to do a double page layout with a scene at the back. You kind of have to respect what's already there. Now, for my larger mats right here, I'm bringing in, again, picking all of the colors from this collection. And let me move this so that it makes more sense and it's in line with the sketch. You can see that by selecting colors that are in the paper, in this background, nothing is fighting. And now this makes a little bit more sense. Well, it does to me anyways. So let me just move this out of the way for one little second. And I want to show you this collection. Right here, this is great paper for if you want to use a strip of it or if you want to use it as ephemera. Now remember, I just have the paper. I don't have the stickers and the stamps and all that, but we're going to make this work anyways. This here, I love this, and I'm going to bring this in and I'm going to create my two pieces here, which are in the same gray tone for my dovetail pieces. And I think that that's going to introduce a really nice color for my layout. When I was looking at this collection, I did kind of consider, if you want, using this really dark green in the background. Now, even if it's not cut right here, you can kind of see what's happening it's kind of taking over and you're kind of losing the really pretty background that we have printed on this page. I was quite lucky when I found this in my stash, and we're going to go with something that's a little bit lighter and lets this piece right here shine through. Now let me cut these pieces here and I'll show you a little trick on how to do the dovetail that is foolproof. For the next two pieces, we have these banner pieces. Now you don't have to cut them into a banner. They would look just as nice if they were kind of straight. But I think that the banners are kind of fun. It just brings movement to the page. But you know what? This is fine too. Now, again, you pick your adventure on this layout and you decide if you like banners or not. But I'm going to try and stay true to this sketch and do the banners. Now, I don't know about you guys, but banners and me are not always friends. I tend to overcut, undercut, and I try to make them look symmetrical. Now, I do this when I have pattern paper, not so much cardstock, but pattern paper and something that is nice and wide like this one right here. And I am going to gently fold my two corners right here, and I am not overly creasing this because I don't want a crease line in here. So you have to be gentle and you kind of fold that in. Make sure that these 2 points are nice and flush. And I like to use long scissors, and I'm just going to do a one cut. Just like so. And it is perfectly symmetrical. Now I can do that with this one as well. I could use this piece, but I'm just going to show you, even if you don't use the same piece, it's pretty foolproof. So again, I use pattern paper. I don't do this. You can with cardstock, but you are folding the paper and sometimes it leaves a crease line. So make sure that your points are touching, and then take your scissors and just go in like so. And that is a perfect dovetail. So we're going to add that to our layout. I'm going to add my photos here, and you can see how this pop of color is instantly changing the look of this layout. And I really, really like the way that this is turning out. Now, at the beginning, I told you that I didn't have all the ephemera that came with this kit, so I had to make my own. Now, another thing here, and I'm not sure, let me know in the comments, I might add it. It does call here for a branding strip at the top, and I really do like this one, but I'm not sure if it's taking away from everything that's going on the page. Now I'm going to bring in my ephemera because I didn't have the sticker sheet. And I turned to my Cricut for my title and a few of my pieces. Now let's look at the layout again because this is my guide. And here we have our title. So I cut this really pretty title. It is summer. There's 2 offsets on this in the same colors, and it fits right on top. So that is the beauty of cutting your custom titles if you want in Design Space, because you can really match the colors and you can pick whichever word you want. Now I went through some of my collection, and when we go to a cottage, there's always kayaking and there's always fishing. So I thought these are super cute. So I am going to embellish the corner right here. I've got another one here. I think that these are super fun. Let me see here. I guess I have to put it this way. I am not the fisherman in the family. These 2 guys are. So we're going to add this, something like that. So I've got my 2 pieces that I've done on my Cricut, and then on my Cricut I found a whole bunch of pine trees. And if you look in these photos, there's a lot of pine trees. So I thought that I would introduce these up here. I've got them all cut up and all adhered together. Everything needed to come down a tiny little bit if I want to keep the zip strip at the top. But I'm liking the way that this is shaping up. If we go back to our sketch, we have some stars here that I've I've decided to use trees. And then we've got some embellishments here, and here we have some embellishment with the title. I didn't have the sticker sheet, but I was able to make my own embellishments. And I was also able to go into my stash and look at some of my stamp set. Now, this is a newer stamp set, and it has tons of really nice sayings on here, so I am going to bring that in. This here is an old one. It's from the Fresh Air collection. It was actually for a card making kit. And then this one here, I haven't used it yet, and I thought, why not use that for my journaling, which I think I'm going to add here, even if it overlaps the photo a little bit. I think that I can get away with it. Now for the little word, I'm going to add it here just to ground my little trees. I think that that's going to look good. And I purposely stamped pretty much everything in the toffee color so that we could reintroduce that color on the page. And these look really nice. I'm not sure if I'm going to add them here, maybe down here somewhere. Originally, I thought of adding it right here, but now it could be fighting. So I am going to play with the embellishments, and we will see how this turns out. The other thing that I want to bring in is these little guys right here. Now I'm going to cut a strip of them, and I'll show you how I'm going to add them to the cluster. I know that I want to embellish or add a little bit more embellishment on my page with these little postage stamp, but I also know that I don't want to cut around them. Now, if you don't mind fussy cutting, this is not a big chore, but I'm going to show you a little trick, and it goes a little bit faster, and I think that it's pretty neat. The first thing you want to do, you want to cut really close to the edge. So I'm just going as close as I can to the edge of my little postage stamp. Now you could leave it like this. I think that that's perfectly fine. But if you want to cut into it, just use a 1/8 of an inch hole punch, and then just hole punch these little guys right here. So you just go in and you hole punch them, and it's that simple. I'm going to do a few of these, but I just thought I'd show you. If you're not a fan of fussy cutting, and I am not, see how easy this is? And they all look the same. Now, it's not a rush. You have to line them up as much as you can, but I felt that this here was a really good hack if you want to cut around these little postage stamp, and they look pretty darn cute. So I'm going to go off camera, and I'm going to do a few of these, and I'm going to add them to my little clusters that I have on my page, and we're going to finish this double page layout that came together quite quickly with the help of a sketch. So I hope that you think this is a really easy way to do your little postage stamps. I'm going to add a few here. I'll probably add 2 or 3 in each of the clusters. I'll come back and do some ink distressing, and we'll finish this layout together. As you can see here, I'm pretty much settled on all of my embellishments, and I did cut a few of these little stamp images, if you want, postage stamp, and I did use my 1/8 of an inch hole punch. I felt that that went really, really well, and I was able to tuck some in and create clusters. Even if I didn't have the sticker sheet to help me embellish my page, I was able to do a few Cricut cuts and look at the paper collection itself and do some embellishment from the paper directly, and then just add a few staple pieces like tags to ground everything. And it was quite easy because I knew where to create my clusters. You'll notice that I did flip this one over only because I wanted to add this word, and I did want to add this one here, but I felt that they were competing. So by simply flipping my trees to the inside, adding a couple of tags, a couple of embellishments. Now the last thing that I do want to bring in is a few embellishments, and I did go in my stash and I thought, Well, why stick to just one? So I am going to pull from the green dots, and I have a few left, the larger dots and the stars. I think the stars would work on this layout here, and I have a few hearts. Don't think the hearts are going to work, but I've got a few dots, and then these ones here are little wooden embellishments, and I think they'll look good on my tags. I am going to mix these up. And I thought because I have a little bit of white down here that I would bring in these ones. They're a little bit off-white. So we're going to do a little bit of a mix and match if you want for the embellishments. And before I do that, I want to show you that I will be ink distressing all of the edges. And I tend to stick to one color. The color that I chose to ink distress is toffee. And I'm just going to use my inking tool here, and I'm going to go around all of the edges just to kind of give them a little bit more depth if you want. I'm not overly saturating the edges. I'm not like creating a big distress look. I'm just kind of kissing the edge if you want. But I think that once I do that to all of these pieces, it's going to look really great. You can see here that just adds a little bit more to this piece without taking over. So I'm going to do this off camera. I'm going to adhere down all of the big pieces, and then I'll show you how I adhere my clusters and finish it off with a few embellishments. I've adhered all of the main pieces down, and they all correspond to this great sketch. And we're going to reconstruct our clusters, and I took them apart just so that you could see how they all come together. Now this one here, I added quite a bit of 3D foam tape. I want to have that popped up, and you can see here that my tag is not a full tag. I didn't need a full tag. I just cut whatever I had. I'm going to add this here. Now I want to make sure that I'm not overlapping my photo too much, but I want to see the hook. I'm going to add a little bit of glue right in the center. You don't need to have glue everywhere because these are all going into page protectors. And if you add a little bit of glue in the center, if you move it a tiny little bit, you're not going to get a glue mess. So let me take my fingers out of the way, and I think it needs to tilt and come down like that. Okay, so that's our first piece. Just like that. We're going to add our title, and our title, I purposely did not put any foam tape at the top because I know I want to tuck my two tags in here to anchor the rest of my embellishments. This one here, I'm adding just a little bit of glue, and I think that I'm not going to move it once it's down. And then the last two little embellishments that came from the paper are these cute little stamps. Let me see here. When I'm not 100% sure where I'm going to go with my embellishments and I think I'm going to lift them, I usually use 3D, or I usually use this tape here. That way I don't put a lot, I put it right in the center, and that way I can move them around a tiny little bit. Now I think that that looks pretty cute. I like the wood ones here, and I think I'm going to add them to my tags. Let me see if this big one is okay. Yes. I've had these in my stash for, I don't know how long, and today's the day that they fit on a layout. They are a little bit big, but I think they're still cute. Now that my page is pretty much put together, remember I did do this here, and the plan was to put it on my page, but I didn't mind hiding a little bit of the photo here, but it's too big. And you kind of lose the detail of the dovetails that we've done. So I'm going to keep this. What I normally do is that I just pull out the stamp that it belongs with. You never know, sometimes you actually can use these, so I'm not going to throw it away. I am going to use it. We're going to go here on the other side, and we're going to build this cluster here. Now this cluster here, I'm going to lift my photo a tiny little bit. Just going to lift that because I have to compensate for the fact that this is here now. I'm going to sneak this tree underneath. I'm going to add a tiny little bit of glue. You don't need a lot. Definitely, I find that sometimes we just want to make sure that nothing comes off, but when you're using liquid glue, you really do not need a whole bunch. And I like that this guy, although was a little bit taller than I wanted because of this now, it fits really nicely here. This one here is going to have to tuck underneath as well. And if you're noticing here, I'm just adding a tiny little bit of glue in the center, and that gives me a chance to move them around and not get a whole bunch of ink all over my page. Now let's put him like so. And then the last one fits right on top, so I don't have to fuss with that one too much. So we're going to add some glue, and that was kind of generous, but we're going to add him right here. You've got your embellishments here, and you can see that it's kind of going with the rest of what's going on this page. Now, originally I was going to dovetail this because this was on this side, but I kept it long because I know I want to tuck that in. I don't mind if it goes past my pattern paper here, but I am going to tuck that underneath. Again, I like to go between liquid glue and my tape runner when I'm doing my embellishing, only because I can lift things if I need to. So this can fit right here. Add a little bit of glue on the back. Again, you don't have to, empty your bottle or your tape runner when you are doing your embellishments. I haven't had them fall off my page, so try not to put a whole bunch, because we always like to tweak things a tiny little bit. Okay, so I think that looks really cute. You know what? I think I'm going to change these. I feel that they're really thick, and they're just going to create a lot of bulk in my scrapbook layout. So I'm going to pull them off, and I'm going to use the one size down, which is this one here. You still get the same look, but it's not as high if you want. There we go. So we're going to do that here, and we're going to do that on this side. So I'm glad that I had 3 sizes for these, because those big ones were just a little bit too thick. So now that we have our clusters, I still want to use this word here, and I find that it does create that visual triangle, and it doesn't interfere with the photo too much. I'm going to go over the water. I think I'm going to use 3D foam for this. We've got our cluster here. We have our cluster here. I can bring this one in the center. Originally, I thought I was going to put my little postage on this side, but everything was on that side. So I feel that I need to flip this over and bring it here. Let's take a look at the completed layout. I love how it came together. And to be honest with you, I hadn't used this paper because it was a little bit intimidating, but when I was able to start with a sketch, it made it so much easier. I was able to translate this really busy scene at the back, just very much the way that it was done here on the sketch. And then I was able to create my own embellishments because I didn't have the sticker sheet. I love the way it turned out. Let me bring it up for you to have a closer look at all of the embellishments. I think that it looks really good. Now, the last thing I will do is add a little bit of journaling because that journaling card did not work. Well, that's it for me today. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. I really do appreciate it. And I will post down in the description the link to get this printable download for your very own. As you can see, I was able to create this great layout, starting with this sketch even though I had a pretty busy pattern paper. Have yourself a fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now. Click on the CDT playlist to catch up on all of our videos.